Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. With the transfer portal largely winding down, you're starting to get a little bit more of a clear picture in terms of what these teams are going to look like heading into spring practice, fall camp, in the 2024 season. I want to take a deep dive into this Auburn offensive line and talk about what we saw from this unit last year. Went back, watched a little bit more film on them, looked at some of the numbers from the season, and then talk about what this unit is going to look like in 2024. Really excited to get into this one. Before we get into it, just want to say thank you to you guys and a shout out to the Auburn fans. This has been a program that has been a blast to talk about on the high school recruiting trail and in the transfer portal. And now it's time to kind of dive into what this team is going to look like in 2024. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And more importantly, the best part about doing these deep dives is hearing from you guys, learning from you guys. Would love to hear your comments in the comment section. We can chop it up there. If I'm sleeping on any players, certainly let me know. Again, I learn a ton from you guys. Love talking ball with you guys in the comment section. And without further ado, let's get into it. I want to start with some of my general notes I had from watching this Auburn offensive line back in 2023. Took a look at some of the games, took a look at the Alabama game, watched some of the bowl game against Maryland. First thing I want to say, Connor Lew might be one of the best centers in the country over the next couple of years. I mean, as a true freshman, Connor Lew, and how he pass protects and how physically he is imposing in the run game as well. He's a phenomenal athlete, plays extremely strong. It is hard to believe he is a true freshman out there playing at the SEC level. I cannot wait to see what year 2 and year 3 looks like. A guy that played at 290 pounds during his freshman season. You go in and put 10 more pounds on him, get him up to 6'3", 300 pounds. That was about as impressed as I've been watching a true freshman play along the line of scrimmage in the SEC in quite a long time. Connor Lew, an extremely bright future. And you look at this group as a whole in 2023, and you lose some guys, Britton and Jones, heading to the NFL. This was a very athletic group. And when I take some deep dives into other programs, and they're running those stretch zone schemes and trying to attack the boundary and going off tackle, there are not a lot of offensive lines that have the athleticism to kind of play east and west and kind of complete those reach blocks, so to speak. I thought Auburn has a bunch of really, really rangy athletes on that offensive line, and they can do it relatively well. And I think that run game looked a little worse than it actually was, especially how the offensive line blocked up for the run game, because you watch back the film and there are so many loaded boxes where there's extra defenders that aren't really accounted for in the run schemes because Auburn really couldn't push the ball down the field. I mean, consistently walking up safeties, having multiple guys, 8, sometimes 7, 8, 9-man boxes. I thought the Auburn offensive line did what they could in the run game at a pretty high level. It's just when you are looking at 8, 9-man boxes, it is really hard to get the run game going and kind of work up to second level defenders when there's just so many second level defenders that are in the box when Auburn's trying to run. A couple other notes that I have. One, I really, really like is Xavier Miller. I think he has a lot of work to do, especially in pass protection. It needs a little bit more of an anchor there. But he's a guy that you see flashes. There was a play against Alabama where he gets off the ball, completely washes down Dallas Turner, a guy that's probably going to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft in a couple days. There's some young talent, Connor Lew being kind of my guy, but Xavier Miller was really impressive too at times. Now the consistency needs to be cleaned up, but I think there are some young guys on this Auburn offensive line that you feel really good about maybe taking that step in 2024 because you really do see the flashes of this group being really good. Now, getting into really what this Auburn offensive line is going to look like in 2024, I think the fans is left tackle Percy Lewis coming in from Mississippi State. And why I want to harp on this is it was so hard for a lot of these Power 5 teams to find starting caliber tackles available in the portal. Percy Lewis, I don't know if you'd say a diamond in the rough. I thought he should have been valued a lot more than he was in the transfer portal. Going back and watching him, even against Auburn last year, Percy Lewis, I thought was a phenomenal tackle, especially in pass protection. You take a look at what he did last year, 235 pass pro opportunities, only gave up 7 pressures, started the second half of the year for Mississippi State, and I thought he did a phenomenal job doing so. And why I want to kind of hammer that home is you got Percy Lewis coming in as your left tackle. I think that allows Dylan Wade, who was phenomenal at tackle for Auburn last year, to kick into left guard. That's kind of what I'm reading is the plan. And you all of a sudden look at that left side of the offensive line and say, that is a very, very reliable left side of that offensive line. And if Percy Lewis can, I think, continue to change that body comp. Again, he came from JUCO, 385 pounds. He's down to 345. I think there's still some work to do on his body and athleticism. Really good in pass pro, a ton of length, phenomenal feet. You want to see him get it going a little bit more in the run game. Him and Dylan Wade working on some double teams. That's a really exciting left side of the offensive line. You obviously have Connor Lew at center. And on the other side, you have a guy in Xavier Miller who, in pass protection, you want to see just a little bit more consistency. He has the length. He has the athleticism. You see guys kind of get into him, and the anchor isn't really there, right? Getting right in. And when you're 6'5", 6'6", you got to make sure that pad level is down. And if it's not, you're going to see edge rushers really get into a guy like Xavier Miller. But when he's getting downhill in the run game, he's really, really athletic, can move people off the line of scrimmage, can get up to the second level, pick up safeties, backers. I think Xavier Miller has a really bright future from what I saw. He just needs to clean up the consistency. And that's kind of, what you want in guys who are first-year starters, and you're looking at, all right, what jumps can you take? The bones are there. This is not a guy that just lacks the physical traits to be a really good tackle at the SEC level. He has all those traits. Now you just got to work on the consistency. 311 pass pro opportunities or 21 pressures given up. You want to see that number get better. Now you look on the inside. I think you feel good about Percy Lewis and Xavier Miller at the tackle spot. You look on the inside, moving Dylan Wade to guard. I think you got a really good left tackle in Dylan Wade. I think you might have a great guard. And I think that's where I'll put it. You look at Dylan Wade plug and play and in that left guard spot potentially. You feel really good about that. Connor Lew, 228 pass pro, 6 pressures as a true freshman in the SEC, still stunning, and the film matches it. I cannot tell you how impressed I am of Connor Lew, and what excites me the most is he was playing as a true freshman, 290 pounds. What does it look like going into year 2? Does he get to 305, 300 pounds, 305? Does he get a little bit more physically imposing? He is a phenomenal athlete, extremely smart center too. You talk about like picking up stunts and giving guys off. Connor Lew checked all the boxes for me. He's a really, really good center. And then you look at that other guard spot. You have a guy like Jeremiah Wright, who I think showed some really good things. You have a guy like Jaden Muskrat, who I think you're going to have that competition there for that guard spot. And all of a sudden you look at the starting 5 and you feel pretty good, right? 4 spots, I think, really are largely locked up, and you have a competition between 2 guys in Jeremiah Wright and Jaden Muskrat, who you feel pretty good about. Whoever wins that job, you probably feel good about them starting at right guard heading into 2024. And then the depth is pretty good too. And this is probably a conversation that doesn't get had enough. I think a lot of the focus gets put on, like, what does the starting 5 look like? We don't care about who's 6'5", 5'6", or 6', 7, 8, 9 in terms of that offensive line. When you're Auburn and you're trying to win games in late November, I'm not saying injuries are going to happen, but sometimes they do, and you want to have the ability to be deep. And I think, one, having Dylan Wade, having the ability to play tackle, play guard, certainly helps you get this best starting 5 out on the offensive line. But you have guys that I've been reading about: Tyler Johnson, Tate Johnson, true freshman DeAndre Carter. I'm probably forgetting a few. I think there's a JUCO guy that came in. Seems to be a decent amount of depth on this offensive line too, and that's really the key. You look at, some of the top offensive lines in the country. As a Michigan fan, you kind of appreciate it a little bit more knowing about Michigan's roster and how it's built. Like, there were 12 guys who I think Michigan's coaching staff felt they could play for that Michigan offensive line. And I think that just elevated everyone's play. Like, there was some really healthy competition in spring camp and fall camp. And I think when you have that competition, not only in terms of injuries and being able to plug and play guys, but elevating everyone's game. And I think Auburn has that depth. And so you look at Auburn and how the offensive line is constructed. One, I think Dylan Wade moving into left guard, I think you upgrade the left guard position. I think Percy Lewis comes in and is a phenomenal left tackle. So I love the left side. You look at a guy like Connor Lew. I think he's going to take another step in 2024 after an exceptional 2023 season. A guy like Xavier Miller, I think, flashed some really good things. he could maybe take a step too. You're starting to feel pretty good about this Auburn offensive line. And I think one of the things that you're probably most excited about is this offense ideally being in more comfortable spots. When this Auburn team struggled to throw the ball like they did and not really have a we're going to attack your deeper third if you give us that opportunity, it wasn't great for the offensive line, right? There was a lot of pressures being sent at them. They were running into loaded boxes. Not the best environment for an offensive line to thrive. And if this Auburn team can get that passing attack going with guys like Cam Coleman and Perry Thompson coming in, potentially a transfer quarterback. I've been hearing some buzz about Jordan McLeod. We'll talk about that if there's more buzz that from about that. I think this is going to be an offensive line that can even excel a little bit more as this offense continues to become more two-dimensional, because quite frankly, through a majority of that season, it just was not a two-dimensional offense. They could not attack the deeper third. They could not really throw the ball in any explosive way, and that makes it very easy on a defense and defensive coordinator to scheme up against the run and send pressures when you're really not worried about these wide receivers winning downfield. So I'm really excited about this Auburn offensive line. I think grabbing Percy Lewis in the transfer portal was a phenomenal get. Really excited about this group. Wanted to hop on, talk about it. Next week, we're taking a look at the Auburn defensive line, so stay tuned for that. Another group that I'm excited to dive into. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.